Morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is Nomsa Mazwai, and I am going to be responding to the SAMRO CEO's response. I hope all of you watched it. So, basically, with all the media coverage and the unrest and the unhappiness in the industry, the SAMRO CEO held a member engagement. So we were asked to send questions ahead of time for the member engagement, and so that the CEO could answer these questions. There was a journalist there who was asking the questions. I think he's a music industry journalist or an entertainment industry journalist, and he was asking her questions. And then they opened for a live Q&A. I'm just going to go right away and start about my first qualm. My first problem is that I sent questions ahead of time. I sent questions ahead of time. And my questions were never addressed. They were not answered. They were not asked. It was as if I didn't send them at all. And for me, it says one of two things. It's either I like to think that maybe from an administrative perspective, somebody just dropped the ball. And that does happen, Makaban. That's what I like to think. What I don't like to think is that we are playing politics and playing strategy when we really just should be engaging members. So for me, I don't like to take things personal. Also, it gives me a lot of joy when I see women such as myself um, who are highly talented leading organizations. And so I will believe that it was an administrative challenge of some kind. What I've decided to do for the response is that I have taken key issues that came out of the dialogue of the engagement. The things that when people ask questions, things that people are angry about, there's always those elephants in the room that, you feel like you didn't get the answer. So I've prepared a presentation. It's my response to SAMRO CEO presentation. And I want to put out a disclaimer immediately. My disclaimer is that I haven't heard Owen Ndlovu's side. I have not heard Owen Ndlovu's side. Um, I just am basing my views and opinions on what I saw from the SAMRO CEO. All right, so let's get to it. Um, we're gonna go to this response paper here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with is the elephant in the room. Everybody always talks about it. Every time we meet, we always go, and remember to buy. And the thing is, we're so angry about Dubai. We're so angry that our monies were taken. And I understand. I understand because large sums of money were taken and invested. And so what I did was I took myself to the MOI and I said, why is this Dubai thing taking so long? And I think that we should normalize reading the MOI. And I would like to speak to Moya podcast because I really do want to read the MOI chapter by chapter and create a series so that musicians can go and watch and understand the MOI of SAMRO. Number one, in the MOI, it says the board of directors have the right to incorporate. Incorporate means to make a company or acquire subsidiaries in connection with the advancement of its objects. Now, in Dubai, the story was that they wanted to make a SAMRO in Dubai. And that does advance the objects of SAMRO. So that clause covers those board members. 4.1.15, to invest the assets and monies held or owned by the company, including without limitation to, and they list other things. But it's basically saying that they can invest our money. And so our MOI says that they can invest our money. Then clause 4.1.15.1, and there's clause 1.15.2, but I'm only going to tell you 4.1.15.1. You must go read the chapter 4 of our MOI if you don't have time. Go and read it because that tells you what are the objects of SAMRO. What is SAMRO there to do? And that one says let me just go back. It says invest and deal with the monies of the company in such manner as may from time to time be determined by the directors. I've got a little bit of covering here that I can't see what's written at the bottom. My apologies, colleagues. But investment in any manner, you can see what's written. So this covers these directors, because whenever I've been to meetings, people are always saying, how could they take our money to invest? Even myself, I'll say, no, SAMRO is there to fetch money and pay money, not to, that they're not there to have bright ideas and invest. They're supposed to collect and distribute. I've said it, but here it is in the MOI, what the board is allowed to do. And we have agreed to that MOI. So I'm going to talk about the legal side of Dubai a little bit when I talk about the 60 million, because these things are very similar. But when we talk about Dubai, it cannot be that you are angry that they incorporated a company, because the MOI of SAMRO, which you are in alliance with as a member, says they can do it. You cannot be angry when they invest the assets and monies of the company into doing something, because that's what it says in your MOI. Now, you might be angry to say, what are the monies of the company, owned by the company? But look at the MOI, it says held and owned. Then the 4.1.15.1, thank you very much, technical. Invest and deal with the monies of the company in such manner as may from time to time be determined by the directors, and to apply the proceeds of such investments in any manner consistent with the MOI and the Companies Act. So as long as they were not enriching themselves. Now we know when we hear stories about Dubai, people, I don't want to push hearsay, but obviously if you're traveling first class, or if you are staying in expensive hotels, you see, those are the things that are in the gray area. But as far as traveling and being there, we've agreed to them doing that in the MOI. And my question is, why do we need a board that can do that? Why? What is the investment report that we get from the board that says these are the investments that we've made, and this is how we are performing as investors? Because being an investor, it's an activity, guys. There are firms all over the country that deal with investment. Even when you deal with investments, there are different firms that deal with mining. Other firms deal with farming. It's a specialized skill. And when we appoint our board of directors, are we looking for people that can invest, or are we looking for people who can collect and distribute our monies effectively? So these are the things that sit in our MOI that disempower us. I'm going to move over to the next elephant in the room. The parking and the buildings. So in the report back from the CEO, she spoke about the parking in the building. Everybody's been going on and on about the board wanted to sell the building. I've got evidence. You were going to sell it. We're not going to tell the members. Let's read what the MOI says. Clause 4.1.12 says, to establish any trust, the board of directors has a right to establish any trust, and also SAMRO has a right to establish any trust as a collecting society or with any object similar to the company, including without limitation, to administer all or part of the administered IP rights of members and other persons, and to donate or transfer property in the widest sense of the company to such trust insofar as it is consistent with or ancillary to the other objects of the company. And if you remember, when the CEO of SAMRO was speaking, she spoke about SAMRO House, which is an entity that it falls under SAMRO. So you see, when you're in a company, you've got an organogram, and you see there's a general manager, and under the general manager, there's a manager of hospitality, there's a manager of gardening services, there's a manager of administration. It's similar with companies. There can be a company that is the holding company, the main company, which is SAMRO. And then SAMRO creates other entities under it. And remember, she said that SAMRO House sits in another entity. Now, she wasn't clear whether that entity was a trust or it wasn't a trust. MOI stands for Memorandum of Incorporation. An MOI is a document for a company, okay, that says this is what the company is for. This is our purpose. This is what we do. And so I'm just responding to that question that came through. Now, to go back to the parking in the building, we also have clause 4.1.13, and it says the directors, not the board, not the members. It says the directors. The directors have a lot of power when you read this MOI. There's no delegation in our MOI that says the directors can make decisions, and then they are limited to decisions up to this amount when it comes to any other business other than distribution. Because we can say that, we can say, yes, the directors can make decisions up to 1 billion when it comes to distribution. But for any other activity, buying or selling of buildings, we can set a limit on them. We can say, no. For such things, we want you to come to the AGM because they must plan. This organization's been around for 60 years. If you want to move to another building, you can plan. You can tell us in the AGM, because we have an AGM every single year. We won't be frustrating operations by saying, for things that are not in the approved business plan for the year, that exceed an amount of 5 million, they must come to the members. But we don't have that in the MOI. 4.1.13, guys. To purchase or acquire movable and immovable property and any rights insofar as is consistent with or ancillary to the other objects of the company. So they can buy and sell the parking without telling us. They can report to us in the board meeting. Can you see sometimes we're making noise about things that we've agreed to in the MOI? When we go to AGM, our business is to make the MOI what we want it to be. That's why when we go to AGM, we must go there with amendments to the MOI, the ones that we want, so that we can be comfortable. Because now every time we're saying, sizobathatha sibayise emaphoyiseni, sizothini, or sizobathatha sibayise court, okusalayo hakufihla court. The judge and the lawyers and the advocates are going to look at our MOI, and our MOI allows them to do it. In fact, the board, because we as musicians get some reputation, you understand, and it's not a power, mobilizer, and abanye abana decorum, abana professionalism, you understand. So the board can be bathukile, I'm sure. That's why they didn't sell the building, but they can, guys. It says in the MOI that they can buy and sell, as long as it's in line with the objects of the company. If they decide that, no, SAMRO House, after COVID, nobody's coming to the offices, we don't need this big SAMRO House, as a board, they can say, we're deciding, we're moving. So then I'll move on to the next issue, because we've got limited time here. Let's talk about the 60 million. The 60 million, when we were speaking about the 60 million, this is the undocumented, that was people who came and they claimed, and they came and they collected. She was talking about that in the session. Makabane, 50% of that money was not distributed because of their own internal mechanisms. Of that 30 million that was distributed, 4.4 million of that money was flagged, meaning that 26.6 of that money, it was fine, the way it was distributed. And then, now this matter is sitting with the National Prosecuting Authority, which is meaning that if there was foul play amongst members, because you must understand that there's the 30 million where there was a rat, where the organization smelt a rat, and the money was not distributed out of the 60 million. Members, are we to sit by as an organization and people apply for monies that are not theirs, and they are caught for applying for monies that are not theirs? They don't get the money, but the crime is committed. The crime is committed. So we can't say the 50% was not distributed and then we just leave that as that. No, no, no. People committed crimes. Just because they didn't get to finish the crime, it doesn't mean that a crime was not committed. If somebody breaks into your house and they don't manage to steal goods, they have still committed a crime. Anybody who applied for the 60 million, who was not entitled to get that 60 million, and who SAMRO can prove that they were not entitled to get that 30 million because they didn't get the money, those people, we want them to be reported to the police, not just the ones where it's now the money went out. No, no, no. Whether the money went out or it didn't go out, members, leadership, whether the money went out or it didn't go out, those people must be held to account. We want to know who claimed money that wasn't theirs and what drove them to claim money that's not for them. Why did they claim money that's not for them? And furthermore, we go back into their records. When did you register? How often have you been claiming? Because those people belong in jail. And I know that the jail system in South Africa is very overpopulated. We do need more social, community punishment. Like people have to go pick up papers or go and clean. We've got lots of problems in this country that people can fix for us while they are paying their debt to society. They don't actually have to go into prisons. We're not talking about serious criminals here, but people must be held to account, and their membership must be cancelled. You can't be a member of SAMRO as a thief. SAMRO is not here to represent thieves. It's here to represent composers and authors. Then, if I get a comment here that says, fair enough, we slipped by not reading the MOI and MOU. Let's give it to them on that one. No, no, no. Listen, my brother. It's fine to not read the MOI and the MOU. It's not even a problem. Because this is a new South Africa. We are 30 years into this new democracy. Remember that the apartheid system tackled us with education. And that's where they came for us. And being able to access information. So this thing must not be seen in isolation. There's no problem with the fact that people have not read the MOI and MOU. But luckily for us, over these past 30 years, many of us have been educated. Many of us now know how to read the MOI. Not everybody needs to read the MOI. That's why we must have that series, chapter by chapter, and I can talk. Remember, in our African culture, we have a long, rich heritage of spoken history. Different people are different. Tina, our oral history, our heritage, we have a tradition of oral history, yabo, oral telling, and that's just part of our culture. So what we need to do now is we are now living in a Eurocentric system when we now have these courts. Yeah, I understand, and MOIs and MOUs. We've inherited this thing. So when we inherit something, it's not that we must change. No, it's that we must create the mechanisms to enable all of us to access. And that's what we're doing here at Moya, is to make sure everybody can access the information. And we are reading. Now, here with the MOI, guys, I'm pulling excerpts. And you must remember that when I'm pulling things, you are reading them out of context. Please, we will do that. I hope Moya can agree to go through and reading the chapter by chapter where I just break down what's this chapter about, what are they saying, then we can understand. But don't ever feel guilty about not having read an MOI or an MOU. Your purpose might be that you have come here to sing. God has sent you to sing. That's not a bad thing. But we must make sure that as you do what God has sent you to do, you are successful. Masiani get the 30 million that was distributed and the 3.4 million that's flagged. That's SAMRO CEO. I don't want to lie. Yes, she was vague, man. She was vague, in my opinion. She said this matter has been reported to the NPA and the NPA has instructed them not to talk. That's fine. Because what the NPA is saying is that, you know what? When we've had cases like this and then we don't prove the case, sometimes people kill people, witnesses. You know, this corruption thing in South Africa, it's a life-threatening activity. Yeah? When you're trying to be honest, it's a life-threatening activity. So the NPA is saying, listen, you don't need to name and shame people. But there was a question that came, I believe it was from Eugene, who was saying, Why, if it's are board members involved? And the SAMRO CEO did not respond to that question. And I said, at the very least, CEO, you must be able to say, I can confirm no board members are involved, because board directors are held to a different standard than us mere mortal members. Remember that there's a Companies Act that dictates what kind of a person can be a director of a board, and it's not the kind of the person who can be implicated in missing money. Also, our MOI requires that when we are discussing issues where we have a conflict of interest, then those matters must be brought to the board. So if a board member is conflicted, they were supposed to report themselves in the board. So we need to understand. I don't know why the CEO was so quiet about that. So in my view, colleagues, that 30%, that 30 million that wasn't distributed, SAMRO, they can get the assistance of the lawyers and the assistance of the law, but they must report all those people. Those people committed a crime. They broke in. They just didn't get to steal the money, but they broke in, and they must be held accountable. And then with the 3.4 million that's been flagged, hi, Makabane, if there are board members involved, Maba, step down, because that's what our MOI says. And it says that board members vote them out in a meeting. And I'm talking to the board now. If you are sitting with a board member who stole and you are not voting them out, we are going to hold you accountable for that. Because in our MOI, you have that responsibility. Then let's go on to the next question. And thank you, Mandila Kepa, to the author, and thank you, Just Breed, for the questions. Please do ask your questions. Now, when the SAMRO CEO was talking there was a question that was asked around earnings. You know, there's always this question around earnings and how much money do people actually make, and the SAMRO CEO said something when she was speaking. She said members who are active in that distribution. I thought to myself, it made me think about this issue of members. So I went to the MOI to try to understand what kind of members does SAMRO have, because colleagues, we have different kinds of members in SAMRO. There are two classes of membership. There's class 1 member, and that's a performing rights member. Then we have class 2 members. That's all other members that are not performance rights members. I said to myself, who is a member who's not a performing rights member? I asked myself this question. I said, because when we say all other members that are not performance rights members, it means that you are not a composer, you are not an author. And I said to myself, how can the organization that's collecting for composers and authors have members who are not composers and authors? Makabane, I was confused. So I went online. I said, no, there should be a list of members. And this is a member organization. I didn't know if I was going to be able to access it, but I went online. I went to look for the list. I found the list, but the list only shows full members. And also, the list shows full members not in alphabetical order. I go back to when you asked us to send questions, and then you don't answer the questions that were sent in advance as you asked for them. And I take that same energy and I go to the membership list, and it's a list of people and it's not in alphabetical order. Why? These are small frustrations, guys. Yabo? These are small frustrations that are unnecessary. Why are you slowing me down from knowing how you work? With a document that is out there for public consumption. Why? A document that's 18 pages long and each page has got like 30 people's names on there and none of them are in alphabetical order. And there's no reason for them not to be in alphabetical order. It's not like we're going by the order of the numbers because the numbers are not there. CEO, please, Sakela, From an administration perspective, please make that membership list in alphabetical order so it can be easy for members to access and to use. We don't just want to see. We're tired of seeing. We're tired of seeing 400 million was collected by SAMRO. And then when we look in our accounts, there's 13 cents. No, 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 no. Now when we look, we're looking to understand. And as a young, a very, very very impressive leader, woman leader, help us to move forward. Then there's class one performing rights members. In performing rights members, there's full members and there's associate members. Now, comrades and fighters, I did not go and look how full members are elected. I did not go to see, they call it the membership guideline or the membership standards, or there's a thing that says what the members are. But when I read the MOI, there were things in there that troubled me. But because I had not read the rules, the member rules, I did not want to go too much into this. The only people that can be elected onto the board must be full members. But there's something in our MOI that the board at their own discretion can decide who is a director, who is a full member. And a thought came to me that, Haribo, if you are the one that decides who can be a full member, then you're basically deciding who can serve on the board. And it's at their own discretion. But because I have not read the membership rules, I'm going to just let you know that only full members can be elected as board members. Then we have associate members. That's in class one. In terms of membership, class one, the performing rights members can vote. Class two, they can't vote. Yeah, it's fine, they can't vote, but why are they members? Man, disabuza nangoku. So then we've now covered the membership. Now, there was a question that the journalists came because people really don't understand how distribution works and how it is that they get their money. And so at the time, I know recently we got our Apple money, and so I'm sure you would like me to talk about distribution of digital. But when I made the presentation, I was looking at broadcast because that's what they were discussing with the CEO. Now, what happens is that SAMRO collects the money from SABC. Before they do anything with that money, they take away administrative costs, their provision for bad debts, and any other deductions. And now I've got a bone to pick with any other deductions. Now, administrative costs and provision for the bad debts and any other deductions can be between 20 and 25%. I am not sure whether SAMRO has ever got it less than 20%. So if you earn 10 Rand from SABC, your 10 Rand is now 7 Rand 50. And the 7 Rand 50. What happens is that SAMRO gets the cue sheets and the playlist from the broadcasters, and the SAMRO CEO also spoke that they're also talking to some of the broadcasters so that they can actually pay for an employee who will focus on cue sheets and making sure that the right data is coming and the right information is coming. And I thought that was very innovative and really a step forward in terms of you've got to solve the problem. You can't keep saying that you can't collect. Then they do data acquisition. They acquire the cue sheets based on music data. So they get the data collection, and then there's some data that they even buy, right? To get a sense of music usage, of what, how was your music used? And how long was it used for? And what show was it used for on? Then what happens is that there's something that they do once they get to that point. So now they've got the money, they've taken their money to run their office because they must get paid bonuses and they must get paid their travel allowance and their hotel stays and their everything before they actually start to pay the members. Now when it's time to pay the members, it's called the net distributable revenue. What they do is they take the net distributable revenue and they divide it by the total duration of usage. And they get a revenue unit factor. That means for every unit, it's worth this much. Then they go to a member. Let's say Nomsa played for this much duration. Then they will take the revenue unit factor and times it by the duration of Nomsa. So then when the CEO was speaking, I was getting very upset because you plan ahead of time, CEO. You ask us for questions ahead of time, which you don't answer in the response, CEO. But even in your explanation, my leader, you do not use infographics. You do not use ways in which you can communicate with the membership. And you know the membership is you are dealing with membership that's speaking more than English. They're speaking other languages. I'm doing my best, guys, to make sure that it's accessible for all languages. But really, for me, when it was at that part of the response, I said, really, SAMRO must have infographics to describe these things because this is a member engagement. Do your best to communicate to the member. All right. Now, because it was digital, I thought, let me add this digital distribution. I thought I must add this sheet, this page here, so that I can explain to you why I earned 13 cents. Yes, guys, I got my report from SAMRO, and this period, 13 cents, 13. So this is how I earned 13 cents. I want to explain because many of you, when you see your 200, 100, 300, people are getting upset. Uti, how come my song played 1,000,000 times on Apple Music? How come I'm getting 300 Rand? And I'm going to get into some of the nitty-gritties of digital when I get to the end of my explanation. But let me start with what happened. Yeah? So I made a song with Jazzy Disciples. I met the Jazzy Disciple here in the front in the orange. I met him at Most Deaf Salon. And I went to Alexandra and I went and I recorded in his studio. In the studio, we made a split sheet on WhatsApp. Sharp. That song in this period, this reporting period, was played or utilized 3,013 times on Apple Music. In a distribution of 1.5 million, if you can see, it's 1.446240. Now, here when SAMRO said to me, total units, I said to myself, what's total units? Right? Because I know the usage, but what's total units? I'm going to call SAMRO for that. I tried to call SAMRO for that. I could not get through. I want to know what's total units. And I researched, I couldn't find out what's total units. Is it the total that music was played on Apple Music? Is it the total of this song? Is it the total of Jazzy Disciples? I don't know. Then my share of the song, when it comes to PR rights, remember, SAMRO deals with PR. They're collecting digital PR. Capeso collects digital MR. So this is my PR share because I own majority of this song. My share is 41.67%. My earnings was 13 cents. What did they do? You can see there, it's the usage times the unit rate divided by my units. And this gave me my earnings. Now, I want to tell you something, quite a flabbergasting thing. I did this calculation on a calculator, guys. It doesn't even come to 13 cents. It was much less than 13 cents. It was not even a cent. So I had questions. I was like, I wasn't even supposed to earn 13 cents. Now, you must understand that for Nomsa, it's like it doesn't mean anything. But for somebody who was supposed to get 13 Rand, who gets 130,000, you understand? So for me, I really want the SAMRO CEO to stipulate, you must understand these things. And if you use infographics, everyone can access information. Then, if you look here again, it says now, why did I earn so little? The multiple usage pools or minimum payout, the currency conversion. Maybe they collected in dollars, but the currency conversion is not true because it doesn't matter what currency you collected in dollars, euros, it's much stronger than the rand. So that can't be a thing. The bigger picture, I had a very small unit rate. Yabo? And that unit rate is a number that comes from total units and the usage. I don't understand what total units means. Um, I have a small share of public streaming, and then SAMRO makes their deductions. Now, let me give you more insight. I collaborated with Jazzy Disciples. Jazzy Disciples has a very, very big following. They've got millions and millions of plays online. But who is Jazzy Disciples popular with? Is Jazzy Disciples popular with university students who might be on Apple, the free one, or Spotify, the free one? Because remember, these digital platforms, I don't know if it applies to Apple, but for Spotify, there's a free Spotify and that has adverts, and then there's a paid for Spotify. If your following is more paid for Spotify, then your usage is actually worth more. When if let's say I collaborated with Nduduzo Makatini, who we know, looking at his audience, much of his audience is adults, people that have jobs, they don't want to listen to adverts. They pay for the Spotify that you pay for. But if I go and I make a song with Babes Otumu, who's very popular amongst young people, if I go to a piano track, very popular amongst very young people, majority of the people that are listening to the music on Spotify are on the free Spotify. Yabo? So every time my song plays, I get less money for the play. There's a difference here. There's levels to plays. You mustn't just think, I got 3 million plays, Msaki got 3 million plays, Msaki got R1,000,000, I got 100,000, or I got 50,000, or I got 30,000. Msaki's listenership are people who are paying for premium. And that has an influence on her earnings. If your fans are on premium, they are paying you directly. If your fans are on free, the advertiser is paying Spotify to reach your audience. And then Spotify is taking the money that the advertiser to pay you. You understand? And it's money. And advertisers are not going to pay amount. Coca-Cola has a set budget. If they're going to run adverts, yes, the budgets might increase, but Coca-Cola is not going to pay 10 billion for a 30-second advert. You understand what I'm saying? That there's limits to this thing. So it's far better for you when you've got an audience that actually is on premium, people that pay to listen. Number one, we did our split sheet with Jazz Disciples on a WhatsApp. I've been doing split sheets on WhatsApp, guys. I have. And I sent a WhatsApp. I said, okay, cool. So we're agreeing. These are splits. Sharp. We agree. I think to myself, this thing is done. How? I go to Capasso, I go and notify. I go to my publisher, I go and I notify. How? This song came out in 2020 or 2021. And this is my first time I'm earning 13 cents up. We've been in a tussle. Jazz Disciples, that time they were not, so I'm like, no, we agreed to me that I own over 60% of the song. Pelamina, I'm a songwriter and I'm a vocal composer. And singers, you must know this. Uma Yvonne, there was many people that was gonna sing Upum Komboti, but she's the only singer who thought, everybody, that's a vocal melody. Don't think just because you are writing the lyrics that you are not creating vocal melody. So this song, I own a lot of it because I have a share in the vocal melody and I wrote the lyrics. How? Manje lezi thule ayitshayisani. Because I was in the studio with the one, mina, I thought I'm in the studio with a married couple. You understand? How kanti manje kune-divorce, kunama-separation. It delayed my earnings by 5 years or 4 years, 5 years, 4 years. And I didn't get paid. For the 4 years of collection from Live Your Life, I got 74 Rand. And I thought to myself, wait, this is my SAMRO PR. Okay, I'm gonna get the same from Capasso MR, but also now I'm seeing how many times the song has played, and the split sheet is a split sheet. And Jazzy Disciples, y'all owe me money because nobody's been paying me into my account. So these are the things, guys. You understand that you must know when you're collecting digital. These are things you must know. And when we talk about Nomsa Zikote, we must talk about women in the industry. And I know we like to make this thing very personalized. Let's stop that. Then we have a challenge that we're facing in this industry. Why haven't you paid me my money, guys? You know, I got me. Why haven't you paid me my money? We worked in the studio together. You made the money on Apple. People played the music. You earned something, whether it was 100 Rand or 5,000. Why haven't you just said, no, I'm saying, what's your bank details? You own 67% of the song. Why must it be a fight? We did a split sheet. And so these are the things that will show you how many times your song played. Now, when I looked on Apple Music and I checked what is the earning, remember that this ad differs whether it's freemium or if it's paid for. So I know that there's those changes, but I looked at how many times the song has played, and it says $8,000, which is quite a lot of money, guys. Must come again, guys. Then the SAMRO CEO was talking there. The SAMRO CEO starts talking about the journalist asked, so okay, but people are now saying that they're not getting what their music is worth. Now I've shown you how you must be looking at your music's worth. Understand? Yes, you mustn't get angry when it's 230. Educate yourself. Why was it 230? And do I understand why it was 230? Once you can see, okay, you can see that once I did my work and I looked in there, I was able to see and say, no, but why? And now I can go to Do Me from Jazzy Disciples, and I can, but actually I'm just gonna give it to my publisher because that time with that I didn't want to be involved. Just overlooked pagati na pagati indaba engakufuni. You understand? So metadata. When they were in the session, the SAMRO CEO kept speaking about metadata, and she also kept speaking about how your song has a fingerprint. And she used many words, but the words that she didn't use was metadata. She said fingerprint, she said there's many words that she used, and I got quite annoyed when she was using many words because in my mind I was like, people don't know what these things are, and you're not even using the right word as the CEO leadership. It's called metadata. So that's the fingerprint. That's your song. And then they said, the reason we have undock is that we've got poor metadata and we also have poor usage reports. And there was the example she gave. She said, the radio manager example, she said, there's a radio manager who's running a community radio station. They're using music and now they have to report on utilizing the music. I'm not sure whether the SAMRO CEO has experience in the music business. I'm looking at your question that has come up. I know that she has a lot of legal expertise because she has been very well versed when it comes to talking about the Copyright Amendment Bill. And as a professional, I find it to be very professional. I find it to be, I think she's a good CEO. You must remember, colleagues, whenever we have anybody in any position, we don't ask men these questions. We don't ask men these questions, and I'm going to get to that. When we're talking about a CEO is basically a very good business manager, somebody who knows how to get the best out of their teams, somebody who might not be well versed. Remember when I was general manager of Soweto Theatre, I was general manager of Soweto Theatre. I cannot tell you how a lighting desk works or a sound desk, guys. I can't. But when I was there, I respected Lebo and his team. And when I would want to see something that pushes the envelope, I'd say, Lebo, do you think we could do that and do this and do that? And he'd say, oh, I never thought of that. Maybe let's try, right? So a CEO does not necessarily have to be a great, a successful musician or somebody who's been in the music business. Really, what you want in a CEO position is somebody who knows how to work well with their executive team. Because remember, a CEO will have a COO, they'll have an accounting officer, somebody who knows how to do that, somebody who's very good at reporting to the board, somebody who's well versed on compliance. So having a lawyer as a CEO is quite a good thing when it comes to SAMRO, because a lot of our work is about licensing and law and copyright. So I think, and I do believe she has had past experience in working in the music industry as an administrator. So I think she has experience working in the industry. So for me, colleagues, to be very honest with you, as much as, and I'm speaking, when I speak, I hope the CEO is watching. When I'm speaking to a colleague, I'm speaking to a peer, I'm speaking to somebody that I respect, and I'm saying, I'm just being open and transparent, because for us to build South Africa, we must be open and transparent. I can't pretend and say what she did was right when I saw it and I thought, nah, you didn't have to do it like that. And I have to say it. So let me come back to metadata. So there was an example about the radio reports. Now, SAMRO, you realize that radio stations, community radio stations, are suffering to giving you metadata. Take the money from Undock, the interest that you, or the interest from Undock, or us as members, we must make an amendment and say, the interest from Undock must go towards developing technology that will assist us in getting our money. Because when you start a community radio station, guys, when we're dealing in business, and I know it upsets people, when you deal in business and you deal in consumer behavior, it's a wonderful thing to be able to understand that consumers will behave the way that they behave, businesses will behave the way that they behave. It takes a lot for people to change behavior. That's why when somebody is trying to sell you coffee, they will go to a taxi rank to go sell that coffee. They won't open a shop somewhere upstairs there, but in the taxi rank. They'll be on the ground floor because they understand which the consumers going from there to their taxi. I need to be where they are moving. So for us to say things like, no, these radio stations should be closed down. No, we can't say the country must move backwards in order for us to feel like our rights are being recognized. We must acknowledge the situation as it is. Community radio stations, they are not doing the work that they're supposed to be doing presently of recording songs. And you must remember that in economics, the market sorts itself out. Anybody who works in a community radio station wants to work in a commercial radio station. And if you can say that you were very good at collecting metadata and usage reports for SAMRO, that's a benefit for you to get a job at KFM or at another radio station, at a commercial radio station. So the mechanism is working that the workers at a community radio station, when they are maturing and developing, they will be encouraged to generate usage reports and make sure usage reports are accurate. But while we are in a developing country and we don't have that happening, SAMRO, instead of taking this money and just redistributing it into members on market share, which is something that we don't like. And I'm going to get to prescription because some of you are going to say, but Nomsa, you said this prescription should not even apply. I'll get there. As I'm going to rush because I do want to take more of your questions. But as you know, if you know SAMRO, then develop the technology. I've got an app called Shazam. I get on Shazam anywhere where I am, and that app tells me what song is playing. Why are we not taking a little computer and putting it in all the community radio stations? Because we have a lot of interest. It's not hard for us to say we're going to put it in 1,000 community radio stations. This device is going to listen to the community radio station for us, and it's going to tell us what songs we're playing. And that's the metadata that we're going to use. Because radio monitor might not be recording all the community radio stations. We don't know. So for me, I didn't feel that was a nice response, SAMRO CEO. I felt your approach to SABC should still be the approach where you are being proactive with ideas. I love that idea where you're saying we want to put people at SABC at MultiChoice to collect these things at Netflix and Showmax, because Showmax and Netflix have already told us it's too much admin for them. Doesn't make sense in their business model, even though our government should hold them accountable for that because it's the law in our country. Then she spoke about how they hunt down society members down. And she gave an example about the society member that they had to find and they had to give that person R1 million. And I said, I call bullshit. Because I released my music in 2010. In 2011, I was nominated for a South African Music Award. SAMRO didn't hunt me down. In 2011, I won a South African Music Award. SAMRO didn't hunt me down. 2016, when my music had prescribed, that was when I read an article and I got nervous, my money. And I went and I registered for SAMRO. How are you looking for the non-society members? Because the South African Music Awards should be the easiest way and place where you are finding us. You sponsor awards there, you pay money for those awards. So why is it that there's a person who can win a South African Music Award and not be a SAMRO member? I call bullshit. I think it's just one of those. Yes, I'm sure they did find one person who earned $1 million and they traced them, but we're not talking about those people. We're talking about us who lost 20,000, 60,000, 100,000. Don't tell us about the 1 million because it's going to look bad when it's 1 million rand next to one name. No. We must be careful not to become government departments when we're working in our member organizations, colleagues. Let's not catch the disease of South Africa, of the South African public sector. We are not public sector. Let's not do things to tick boxes. Non-society members are not being hunted down. You had 5-6 years to hunt me down. I was a South African Music Award-winning artist. You didn't hunt me down. Then they said people are notifying incorrectly. And for me, at this point, I'd like to say, I think also SAMRO is not asking the correct questions at notification. When we go to notify our songs, usually we have an idea and we know what's happening with our songs. And once you've notified a song, right, it means that you are now part of the SAMRO system. And like Twitter and Facebook and apps, they keep you engaged, they keep you involved. I'm not saying that SAMRO, the portal must become like social media, but I'm saying that you must have the capability for me to keep telling you information. For instance, when you notify a work with SAMRO, they only ask you for the splits and the metadata and the ISRC number. You don't ask me, is your song playing on SABC? Is your song playing on ETV? Is your song playing on MultiChoice? Is there anything else that you want to tell us about your song? Has your song gotten any sync deals? Because you can actually get some of the music, the information from us. You are not succeeding in connecting us with our music. We notify our music. You say you're not succeeding in connecting us when it's on SABC. So there are ways. Ask us. Make sure that the system online can get more information from us. Then I went and I checked and I also saw that there's undocked lists online. Okay. I went online, I went to the undocked list. The list was not active, it was offline. I checked for a couple of days. This is the day that you are having your online engagement. This is the day when the system should work. This is the day that the system should work, because as you're talking, we must be able to do the things and check. And I was unable. It was offline, the system, it looked like it had crashed. I don't know if anybody can access the undocked lists online, but I could not access them. And that was the one thing that I found quite upsetting. I've got a question here from Imanika. Nomsa, please share a template of your digital split sheet on the group so artists can learn how it's done. So what I will do, I will create a digital split sheet because the one I showed you was only for Apple. And remember, I spoke to you about what are the different ways that your earnings can be influenced. So what I will do is I will create one and I will share it with the Moya podcast and I'll share it on my pages as well. Then let's deal with the ugly elephant in the room, prescription. Me, I said, Why does SAMRO prescribe debt, the undocked, the undistributed money after 3 years? Why do they do that? Because this is our money as members and non-members. You come, you're a member organization, you say you're going to collect money. Some of that money is for your members, some of that money is not for your members. How can this prescribe? Because if I didn't ask you to fetch this money, why did you fetch this money? And then when I didn't ask you to fetch the money, you fetched the money. I didn't get the money from you because I didn't ask you to fetch the money. Then after 3 years, you say, oops, you didn't fetch the money. And then you give it to yourself. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. But I had to go look at the law of prescription. And this is the Prescription Act of 68 of 1969. Now, this law says ordinary debt like unpaid royalties prescribes after 3 years, starting from the date the debt became due, which for SAMRO means that when the day when they paid you, from the day that they tried. So if they collected in May and then they were distributing in May of 2024, they're distributing in May of 2026. You've got 27, 28, 29 to go collect your money before May. And then it's prescribed. This is by law, South African law. If we want to change prescription for SAMRO, we don't have to go to SAMRO, guys. We have to go to the president. We have to go to the minister of the department. We have to change a law. We have to change a law. So SAMRO can't do it. But SAMRO does have the legal right to say, does have the right to say we're going to hold the money. And they've done it before. When they were collecting for people during apartheid, you know, those writers and composers and singers, they had extensions and they have little clauses where they say we can do it if it meets these requirements. And they do have it, guys, they do. As Annabelle said, if it's past 3 years, but you come with your radio playlist and you show us radio monitor, which my song was playing during these years, I didn't earn the money. So really, SAMRO is doing what they can, but we just need to, guys, just understand, if this one is to be changed, it's going to have to be a change in the law. It can't be a change that we make as SAMRO members, which I erroneously communicated before. So we can they can make a concession in our policies, they can do that, but it's not legally enforceable. So if you go and you say, look, my son was playing, I've got radio monitor, I've got that, and you come and then you say, oh, you guys owe me 2 million. And they say, well, in unclaimed, we don't have 2 million, we've got 700,000. They can say, we've only got 700,000 for you. And then if you say, no, I want my 2 million, they can say, we don't even have the 700,000. They can. They're not legally obliged. So also, you must remember that when SAMRO is doing these concessions also, you must know the rules, Wabo. Don't get there and say, no, I want my 2 million, because you might walk away with nothing. They have no legal obligation to pay you after 3 years. And it's a law of South Africa, guys. You can go to court until the cows come home. It's a law of South Africa. We have to change the law in order to make that happen for us. Now to the juice. Oh, Owen has joined us. Thank you, Owen. Owen is here and he'll be able to, I'm going to bring him on stage. Owen, if you don't mind, can I first speak about what the SAMRO CEO said about you, and then what was my view, and then you can respond.
Thank you.
Perfect. So, during the SAMRO engagement, Owen was mentioned, Mr. Owen Ndlovu was mentioned there. The first thing that I identified from the SAMRO CEO sharing about the fact that Owen's company was basically helping them match music that sits in Undock, helping them with matching the genres like Mpakanga or Mapiano that maybe are not being notified correctly or matching. But basically, Owen was brought on board to help them with this. As the CEO was talking, she spoke that there were 4 contracts. There was a contract for 6 months, then there was a contract for 9 months, and then there was a contract, then there was a bulk agreement for 9 months, and then there was a last contract that was for 1 year. And she said that they ended the 1 year contract. Owen had done his job, and they were happy with his job. And I believe she said it was after 3 months into the last year's agreement, and that Owen had done his job, and that they were done, and the contract allowed them to end their services with him. As part of this contract, they'd also given him offices, and that he was using offices in SAMRO. And of course, when the contract came to an end, then the lease of the contract came to an end. And she said it as an obvious, right? Okay, I was listening. Then she spoke about Owen Dlovu's behavior in the SAMRO office. When this was all happening, the contract was ended, they must leave the offices. Owen was bullying people. Owen came with a gun to SAMRO house. And now there was that problem. Now, there's a question here that says, why did they end Owen's contract if she was performing? Listen, if I've got a mouthful of cavities and I go to the dentist and I want a dentist that's going to remove my cavities, and the dentist says, yo, you've got so many cavities. And I'm like, I know I've got so many cavities. He says, this thing is going to probably take me 2 years to accomplish. And I say, okay. And then the dentist says, okay, every time you come and see me, it's going to be 10,000, or every month it's going to be 10,000 when you come see me monthly. And I say, cool. And the dentist says, it's going to take 2 years. And I say, okay, fine, no problem. And I sign a contract with the dentist. When I go to the dentist and the dentist ends up doing such a great job that all my cavities are repaired within 1 year, 2 months, there's no need for me to keep going to the dentist, guys. No matter how brilliant the dentist was, there's no need for me to keep going back to the dentist. And I'm giving this example because I don't want us to get caught up in non-issues. Yabo? If the contract says that it can be cancelled with 30 months advance, with 30 months notice, it's a contract. I get to be living in the world of this Eurocentric world of contracts, and that's how there's deals. Owen, you remove cavities very well at SAMRO, very, very well. And they say that you did such a great job removing those cavities that there are no more cavities. Then they say, okay, we end the contract with Mr. Ndlovu, and Mr. Ndlovu was bullying us at the office, and he came with a gun to the office, and he asked for a meeting, and we held the meeting, and he was late for the meeting, and all of that. Right. I want to start with the first major issue. Mr. Owen Ndlovu was not asked to participate in a request for quotations. And I'm speaking from experience, colleagues, as we build our organizations. When we knew we had a matching problem at SAMRO. CEO, this was before your time. SAMRO knew they had a matching problem. Why is it that they never went out to say, we are requesting proposals, we are requesting quotations, because you are working with other people's money? There was no RFQ process here that I could identify when the CEO was speaking. And when there's no RFQ, a request for quotations, there's always a problem, because the question becomes, why did Owen get this contract? Why didn't anybody else get this contract? Why was it only Owen who got this contract? So that was my first issue when the CEO was speaking. The second issue I had when the CEO was speaking, she said, we love supporting members and their member businesses, and we love supporting our members in their businesses at the organization. And I said, no, you do not. There is no way you can say you want to do business with members, and in a 4-year period, we have 4 contracts. Businesses need stability. How do you make plans when you've got only 4, when you've got a contract that's 6 months, another one that's 9 months, another one that's 9 months, another one that's 1 year. Obviously, if you don't give people money to plan for 3 years, 5 years, contracts for 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, you're playing. Mina at Soweto Theatre, I signed a 5-year contract. That's why I could be daring and bold as I was. Because I knew that as long as I don't break any rules here and I comply, I can really turn this place around in 5 years. And my goals, my ambitions only started being fruit, growing fruit. The trees I planted only had fruits after 3 years. So, Annabelle, no, I did not agree with that. You can't say you're respecting business when you saying a person was working with you and you kept giving them 6 months, 9 months, 9 months, 1 year. Now, another reason that it could be like that is because Owen didn't have an RFQ. There was no process that was followed. So that could be a reason why they can't commit to long contracts. Don't do business when there's no RFQ. It's a problem. I've had this experience. It's a problem. Don't do. If you can't do it through a request for proposal or a request for quotations, yes, people send proposals. Let's say Owen brought a proposal. It's a proprietary proposal. You can, and he's solving a problem of SAMRO. You can say, "Thank you, Owen. This is amazing. We are going to say put out a request for proposals." And all you write in the request for proposals is, as SAMRO, we have a challenge of matching our UNDOC. We are requesting for proposals from able companies to put proposals, because you start a process, there's a procedure. And now when you say we're requesting proposals, the proposals come in, you're now getting a sense of what this thing is going to cost you, how many years it might take you. Then you can have a meaningful contract. But when there's no RFQ, when there's no process, then you have these contracts, 6 months, 9 months, 9 months. I didn't buy that this was working with the SAMRO business. That was not a place to make that example, CEO. Then the next thing was, Owen is said to have come to the office with a gun, and Owen is said to have come to the office and was unprofessional. And I'm going to be honest. And Owen, I want you to hear me like a sister. I'm speaking to you like a sister. We have a disease in South Africa, and I don't know if you have this disease, but I'm going to tell you the disease that exists, of men who are connected, who believe they can do as they please, and that they are entitled to things, and that the rules don't apply to them. And when SAMRO said to me, they called a meeting for you and you did not come until 15 minutes into the meeting. First of all, I had to say to myself, first of all, when I'm having a meeting with a stakeholder, it's Owen who is upset, I don't book meetings back to back as a manager. That's just me. But that doesn't mean INDABA has to do it. So I had a problem with the fact that they were back-to-back meetings. I don't book meetings back-to-back. I allow, if I've got a troubled member or a stakeholder, I know that I booked a meeting at 11 and at 12, I mustn't have another meeting, because the meeting must be able to run up until 1. But I can't give them more than that. So, but why do you arrive late and you don't say you're late? This is an important thing for you. This is something that is very troubling for you. I didn't like that. Then they said you came to the office with a gun. Why are we going anywhere with guns? Why are we showing people guns? I don't like it. I don't want to live in a world where people can bring guns anyway. I don't like it. It's not nice. I don't care who owes you how much money. Why is there a gun involved? Women, as women, we get raped every day, every day, every day. We're not walking around carrying guns, showing men guns. Why? It's such a, I've been in a space where somebody brought out a gun. It's debilitating. It's an abuse. It's an assault. I didn't like it. And so when INDABA was talking about that, I could relate to that because I've experienced it a lot in the music industry. Misogyny, bullying, unprofessional behavior, completely unprofessional behavior. We are building an in the music industry not for ourselves, for our children, for our children's children. And that kind of behavior does not create a SAMRO that is going to feed my grandchildren. It creates a SAMRO that's going to feed a couple of connected people's grandchildren for the next 10 years or so, and then it's going to liquidate and it's going to die. SAMRO has what they call a complex member issue. And so they have a policy where they deal with complex members, but I think I had a problem with that. because I feel like we need to understand how was that policy utilized here and how was it implemented, because this whole incident felt like a mess. So now that I've shared my view there, Owen, I'll be handing over to you and you can respond.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Nseke?
Yes,
And you
yes,
can hear me and Nomi?
yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nomi. Thank you very much. Nomi, first of all, let me congratulate you for putting up such a comprehensive presentation that is easy for an artist and easy for any man in the street to be able to understand. And I really applaud you. You've put something very beautiful, and it shows when you bring professionalism and level-headed how things become. That was wonderful. I'll start with the latter one, the one of me bringing a gun to SAMRO. Nomi, I like you because of you as women. You always protect each other. You always fight for each other, even if you don't have facts. What I like about women, they don't need facts. They just act on emotions and fight and realize after. And I will tell you why. South Africa is a very hyped nation. When a case in South Africa emerges, every woman leads. It's mostly women. I've never seen a man leading, except there's this group calling themselves Not in My Name. This is the only group in South Africa that is led by men and is acting all the time when there's an issue of GBV or GBV or anything like that. But with women, mostly, without even gathering the facts, we just buy it and find the facts later. I will address you, Nomi, and tell you about me bringing the gun and being bullied and all that is said to me. First of all, before I forget, let me challenge you. There are individuals that have been put down in court because of Annabelle went and opened a case of protection order, which half of it has already been set aside. We've been in court for three times already now. We are going on the 20th of June for the last time, where the whole protection order will be set aside in its entirety. Half of it now. As I'm speaking to you now, I'm not speaking to you from retreat. I'm at SAMRO offices in my office. She had put on in a protection order that I'm not allowed to come into the SAMRO building. The magistrate has set that one aside. That is why I'm in the building, because of she is exaggerating things. Then she has two witnesses that are her employees that she has put down as the backing for her case of me intimidating and all that, because of the case opened against me is intimidation. They have written emails to the magistrate saying we were not intimidated. Annabelle is busy right now intimidating those employees together with her lawyer to agree that they were intimidated. As a result, they are not even coming to work. Now, when you talk intimidation, you must really find out exactly what happened. First of all, when Annabelle went and opened the case to say I brought the gun at SAMRO building, she was not even in the SAMRO building on the day. She is working from home, and she says that in her court documents. So how can you then open a case of your intimidation basing it on a hearsay? All right. The law says...
Did you bring a gun? Did you bring a gun?
I didn't bring no gun. Now, let me tell you, she goes and says the employees were intimidated. It's two employees that I spoke to. Is a colored and is a white gentleman. Now, I don't want to mention their names because I don't want to implicate them. Now, the other one, I met outside and I asked, where is the boss? What is your capacity? Because of sometimes you write to me telling me things and I don't know what is your capacity. And she answered and said, I'm the official PA. Now, as we speak, Nomi, there is, I worked also at SABC. The security at SAMRO is biggest security ever. In her own floor, which is a third floor, She has a camera. In her own floor, that is the third floor, she has a security guard. But bottom line is, she opened the case when she was not even there. She is basing everything on the hearsay. Now, when you talk things like that and say you were intimidated, but you are not even there, how are you intimidated when you're not even there? And now you are the one intimidating. There are some board members, 3 of them, that are already complaining of intimidation. They are told what to say. They are silenced. That is the situation at SAMRO right now. But it's easy to kick the can down the road and blame somebody else. But bottom line is, Nomi, you will never open a case for Thandiswa Mazwai or for Ntsiki, and you say, I was intimidated. You will say, I have a problem, somebody so-and-so intimidated Ntsiki or intimidated Thandiswa. But the case that is opened, Annabelle was just inheriting because of she wanted to be a macho lady to face me, because of she doesn't like me. And I agree. You don't have to like every people, but you don't have to lie about it. As I'm speaking to you now, I've just handed the document. I've opened a case against Annabelle of perjury, corruption, and fraud. Because what happened is Annabelle has produced fraudulent confirmatory affidavits in court saying they were signed by these people, and I found that they were not. That is when I realized that she is intimidating them. In one of the court documents, she brought a blank, unsigned confirmatory affidavit saying it was signed by one of those. When I showed the magistrate, I said, but you can't use this. This is blank, it's got even no signature. This is something that is happening in court. As a result, I'm not opening a case against Annabelle because of I'm targeting her as a woman or what. For me, no, I don't see a woman when I talk to you. I see a very intelligent, bright, future CEO leader of this country. When I look at Thandiswa, I see the best artist. I don't see women, I don't see color. When I see my wife, I don't take my wife as a woman because of, I think it's a problem itself to identify people. This is a woman, this is a man. It's about capability, whether you can do something or not. So whether we are feeling for women or feeling for men, we're going to judge people based on what they do. And when I praise you, I didn't praise you a woman. I praised Nomi Mazwai because of the presentation that you put down. So at the moment, people are intimidated right here at SAMRO. And I challenge you, Ms. Mazwai, to go and interview maybe 10 of the staff members at SAMRO. They will tell you exactly who is intimidating them, and you'll find that the only person that is intimidating people right now in SAMRO is nobody but the CEO. So I'll leave that one because of it's still in the courts. We are going back on the 20th of June, whereby we'll be able to address this matter because of there's one now, like I said, the one that I must not come to SAMRO building has been set aside. There's the only one now that is remaining. So we are still going back, Ms. Mazwai, on the 20th of June. And I can tell you now, when I come back on the 21st of June, that would have been set aside because of even the reason why the case was postponed to the 20th. They brought the police, what you don't know, to ambush me in court doing the Hollywood style. We were in court last week. The police came to arrest me while I was presenting in court for the very same case that I was presenting for intimidation. Now, I asked the police, do you have the docket? The police have a docket. Guess what? I took that case to the commander of the Hillborough police station commander. And I said, how does the law work? Is this I'm attending a case of protection order. Now I'm arrested while I'm addressing the very same case. Is it not that intimidation? And they say that is intimidation. They called Annabella to Hillborough police station. They address her. I'm supposed to get a feedback today or Monday on that. The person that is being intimidated in all sorts right now is me. But because of I don't want to cloud issues, I didn't want to complain about intimidation. I'm focusing on the initial matter that Annabelle, as a CEO, protected the thieves that stole money at SAMRO. I'm not shifting that because of they trying me to shift away from that. Annabelle has lied so much in court. I've got proof. And also Annabelle is part of fraud because of, let me tell you, in your presentation, Ms. Mazwai, you said the people attempted to claim another 30 million. Right. Now, even the 4 million or whatever amount that the people received, they didn't steal it from the truck or from the fidelity card. Somebody opened a can of worms for them. They applied for this money, somebody approved it under Annabelle's watch. So that is why, to me, it is even very difficult to blame the record labels alone, because of they applied for this money. Somebody was supposed to detect and said, no, you can't get this money, it's not yours. And that would be an attempt, not an act. It could be prevented. Now we're talking that the money was taken. Because of these people applied, normally Annabelle approved those things and they were paid. So who is really supposed to take a blame here? I'm putting it the public to know. Now you talked, Ms. Mazwai, about the RFQ of my contract being terminated. By the way, Annabelle, the CEO, lied also on the platform of SAMRO. She said the contract of 20 million or 3 years does not exist. I don't have any other contract signed. The contract that she just terminated, I didn't sign it. I didn't sign it, Ms. Mazwai. The contract that I signed was for 3 years. Let me tell you why we signed a contract of 3 years. I'm addressing the RFQ matter. I proposed as an intellectual property to say, unsolicited, 2020, and say, SAMRO, you have a problem, you don't pay my people, you don't pay my people in Kofimbaba, you don't pay my people in Nkandla and elsewhere. Because of these, Amaskande, choral, and all the marginalized music. And then in 2021, SAMRO brought in Mark Rosen. Mark Rosen, then the then CEO, I presented the same thing, said, no, Owen, we agree. I've got a letter where Mr. Rosen agrees that I have a shortfall in that regard. We can't pay these people because of we don't have this information. And that causes deficiency in our pay and as a result in usage. Now, that was me proposing. Guess what, Ms. Mazwai? You've been a board member. You know SAMRO does not have a technology to do that. Now, I came and said, and as
Hey, we've lost Owen there. Wow. I'm sure many of you are as surprised as I am listening to Owen sharing what he's sharing. Let's just recap on what Owen said. He said he never brought a gun into Samro House. He also said that he's opened a case against Annabelle of defamation and the like. He also said, then we spoke about the contract in Annabelle's sharing. I mean, I listened. She did say that there were 4 different contracts. He's saying there was only one. He says he didn't sign another contract, and his contract makes more sense to me because it should, for the work that you're doing. Like I was saying before, 4 years, 3 years, 20 million, 3 years to do the work. You know, I said it at the beginning that giving people 9-month, 12-month contracts is not investing in business, it's not saying that you're supporting business. You need a 3-year contract. Owen is saying he has a 3-year contract. Look, Owen has come to this platform, he's shared his perspective. I think it's worthwhile for us to listen and to understand what is going on here. And ningadinwa guys, zisakhathala ngoba hla utlwa batho ba bangata ba ntse ba bua. You know what I mean? But let's try to organize our thoughts and get the facts. He's given us the dates of the court when they're going to court, 20 June, I believe. And one thing I want to add also is that it's been my experience that as we become empowered as young Black leaders, and I'm not, this is not a gender specific thing, as we become empowered as young Black people, it was even said in Animal Farm, all of us know this quote: power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the more that you have, you may be inclined or tempted to behave in ways that are not proper. I've heard Owen. One of the big issues I had was that how do you bring a gun into SAMRO? He says he didn't. Another big issue that I had was around this contract. He says it wasn't month contract. It was a 3-year contract. And the one thing I didn't even mention was that even if you end a contract, let's say INDABA's contract was the right contract, or I don't know, right? If you say a contract is you cutting a contract because someone was overperforming, you're saying, I'm not paying you for the last 9 months of this contract because you have overperformed 3 months early, then why kick them out of the building? That to me felt malicious. Why do you have to kick them out of the building? They can stay the 9 months of the lease and finish the lease. Why are you disrupting their business operations because they delivered? Look, our platform, we always want to make sure that all the voices can be heard. SAMRO was invited, but they were not here. As artists, I believe that SAMRO, the feedback was only watched when we were saying directing artists there. Owen is back. And Owen, yes, over to you.
Thank you, Nomi. Nomi, thank you very much. Sorry about that, and thank you for handling it so much. You and Sigi are exactly the same. You know how to improvise. You like presenters on television. Okay, I was talking about RFQ. There was no need for RFQ at the time, Nomi, because I presented that as unsolicited, and then I was listen to this, Nomi. I was given an opportunity to pilot. Now, when I was piloting, I was given only 345,000 to pilot for 9 radio stations. Now, this is a project that one company for overseas is being paid 11 million rand for it. I was giving 345 million to prove myself. As much as the CEO, Annabelle, says she's taking care of black people and black men, I am the only black company vis-a-vis the white companies that are here. And for me, I have given a biggest test, but I said I have to prove myself. So piloting, there was no budget for it. I was given only 345,000. I pilot for the first year.
Before you proceed, Owen, I want you to unpack. So there's a company that is not South African that was being paid 11 million to do this work.
There's a company from Spain. There's a company. Sorry, Nomi, please finish, then I can come.
From outside South Africa, not a South African company, that is given 11 million rand, and you came to do the work. You said you can do the work, and they said, and this often happens to black individuals. You come, you're a caterer, you say I can cater, and people say, no, we want you to come and cook for us for free first.
Yes.
Because doing the work for 345, it's doing it for free. If not at the cost of your company.
100%.
And this is a practice, and it's a bad practice. I will say it's a very bad practice. If people say they can do the work, then judge them on the work. You can cancel the contract, as you have done so, if you're not happy with the work. But this thing of black companies coming and then we must first rehearse before we get a chance to play the role, it's very terrible, and it's very common in South Africa. So tell us more about that other company.
Ms. Mazwai, when I started piloting, there was already a company servicing SAMRO, by the way. It's a foreign company, it's a white company. It was failing dismally. I'll give you the name after this, I'll give it to Nsiki. But for now, you're a board member. Your former board member, I'll say it's a white company. It failed dismally. When I came in, I was only given to do marginalized, which is Maskande. That's a 30% of the whole music reporting. Right? But if you insist, I will mention the names of the companies. Now, I was only doing 30% of what this company was doing. So they were doing 70%, I was doing 30%. Because for me, it was only marginalized. Guess what? The contract of that company was terminated later, after my performances. I found the company, while I was still piloting, by the way. And guess what? I'm not boasting, Nomi. I had, with a painful heart, I gotta say this no matter how it sounds, I had just bought my wife an X6M BMW, not with the man of SAMRO. I sold that car to fund the build-up and the piloting of the project. I spent lots of money funding the piloting of the project because of SAMRO was giving me next to nothing. But I knew I was going to do best and eventually get this product. And Miss Mazwai, somebody can say, why, Owen, did you take such a risk? I've got a letter saying, Owen, take a risk. If you're successful, we're going to enter into a long-term contract. Everything was taken down. But because I trusted myself, then because of that letter, then I said, okay, let me take that risk. I piloted for the first year, I got a tick. Then they said, no, Owen, we want you to move now from 9 radio stations that you're monitoring to 45 radio stations. In the second piloting, they were trying to set me up for a failure. How do you jump from 9 monitoring radio stations? I'm a small company. Now they want 45. I went in, Miss Mazwai, with my head on the block and my wife supporting me. Big up to women. And then eventually we delivered for these 45 radio stations to T. Then we went entering now the third year, which is now 2024 of contracting now. That's when I'm supposed to get a long-term contract. Listen to this, Nomi. While I'm finishing now, we are busy now talking contract negotiations to say it was going to be the first actual contract because of the others were just for me to pilot. Now they come and say, oh, and we're going to tender. I said, guys, Nomi, you were a SAMRO member. SAMRO does not have meter data. In actual fact, let me be bold about it. No monitoring system, radio monitor or whoever has got genres in their meter data. They don't have genres. The government does not have genres. They don't know which genres is play how much and radio. They can't tell you Maskandi is playing so much. No monitoring system does that. No monitoring. If you go to any monitoring system or Shazam that you talked about earlier, Miss Mazwai, it talks about world music. So there's no genre called world music. If you go to Shazam, it will tell you about, it will never tell you Maskandi. If you come to our data, it will tell you Mpatanga music. It will tell you Maskandi music. It will tell you choral. All genres per South African identity. It's there. We are exclusive to that. That is why Mark Rosen brought us in. Now, they went to tender and 7 companies tendered, right? 1 South African company, 6 of them international. They went and appointed, Annabelle that is saying is preferring black people, went on and appointed a Spanish company called BMET. Last year, 2024. That company is messing up every day. Is reporting 40% of the airplay. We're reporting 96%. And yet Annabelle wrote us a letter trying to terminate us, leaving the Spanish company that is reporting only 46% also your work. Now, what that means, the company that is currently a SAMRO now, if your music was played 10 times on Metro FM, it will report only 4 times, robbing you 6 plays of your money. That why people will say, oh, and do you think you can beat overseas companies and your South African company? Is because I analyzed and customized. I partnered with people from Australia. I said, I want you to give me technology, but in your technology, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can show you, Miss Mazwai. When I partnered with this company, I said, show me your reports. I will show you how they are reporting. You will cry because of you wouldn't get a cent. I had to customize, we had to recode everything to suit the SAMRO needs. That is why even if I can leave tomorrow, they can tender. No company will bring a solution. They've got a Spanish company that is covering 90% of the world, but is failing to deliver on SAMRO because of it has to bring a South African solution to a South African problem. And the only person that has done that is it's me.
Tell me one more thing. This Spanish company gets appointed through the tender process. First of all, I want to say that there is a process. It's called unsolicited bidding. It is contained in the Public Finance Management Act, in the process of what happens when you get an unsolicited bid. because for many years in South Africa, what has been happening is that Black professionals do unsolicited bids, and when they've now made the fertile ground, then people decide to go out to tender. You can't go out to tender when you've accepted an unsolicited bid and you are happy with the service that's being provided. You see, that's my first problem. The second problem is, okay, they go to tender. You don't make a noise. I would have made a noise there.
I
But they go
didn't.
to tender, you apply for the tender. Now you apply for the tender. Automatically, because of our own member rules, if a member can do something that somebody else can do, the member must get the contract. So did
100%.
the board override our own policies? Because we say members must be prioritized. So did the board go over because if it's only one member that's going for that, then how are you getting it? Then also, the other question I want to ask you is, how much were they charging? What was the amount of their contract?
You're talking BMET?
Yes.
1 million rand a month. And they are there, they're operating. So they're getting 11 million rand. It's set aside already, 11 million rand, excluding VAT. So when you include VAT, it will go over 12 million. So that is what this company is doing. And it's failing dismal. And Ms. Mazwai, I don't want you to take my words for it. Go and ask for the board reports between the two companies. I want you, when you come out there, because of you've shown that you are a leader, you understand, and you've enlightened us. Go and get the board quarterly reports of the performance of the two companies, BMET vis-a-vis ORM, which is my company. Then you will see for yourself, the board is just quiet now, but the board has already complained about the very same company. The only person that is happy with the company is Annabelle, because Annabelle has spent 500,000 on a trip overseas, just on a trip, to earn a way to say, I'm trying to source companies to come and invest in SAMRO. How do you go and look for companies when you already have a solution? And you're even saying the company ORM is performing well. And let me address this thing, Ms. Mazwai. If you have a problem with Owen as an individual, it's fine. I'm not an ice cream or money to be loved by any people. But ORM, I co-own it with my wife. ORM has got workers, 9 workers. So why do you target Owen? If you don't want to engage with me as Annabelle, I can agree. But I don't even understand why, Sis Nomi, I am fighting with Annabelle is the CEO. I'm reporting to the COO. My boss is in Mpomo Fikwe. And you've never heard anything mentioned about her. Why? Because of her KPAs have gone skyroofing because of this project. This project belongs to her and is performing, and she's excelling in the KPAs. Now this is both sabotaging her and myself. That is written in the board. Go and check the KPAs of the COO. That has been since silenced by Annabelle, who is claiming that is being intimidated. This project that we're talking about, it should be the COO talking about it. But no, Annabelle has decided that she's going to take over everything. Like we said, to be a good CEO or a good leader, you said that yourself, Nomi, or a president. A president does not necessarily have to know the subject or the business or that type of business, but she's surrounded with professionals in that particular business. Otherwise, Zuma would have not become a president of this country because he didn't go to school. But he didn't rely on himself. He had strong people that were supporting themselves. The Thabo Mbekis of this world that were advising, and everybody else that advised Zuma as a president. But Annabelle does not get advices from these people. She wants to run a solo show alone. And that is why she finds herself in this situation. You talked, Nomi, you talked about why we don't have a system that is going to be, you talked about undocked money to be utilized to improve the technology at SAMRO. I presented that in 22 at Proud Mary Rosebank to Mark Rosen, the CEO then, and to Mpoma Fikwe, the COO then. I brought my partners. We broke down with my technical partners in that restaurant at Proud Mary to say, this is how SAMRO should configure itself to be seen as competing with the world and doing the right thing. We made a plan, we gave it to them. We completed the plan. Guess what? Annabelle took the same plan, gave it to BMET, the very same BMET that she later signed, and is still failing. We have already told them, take the money. We even said what you're saying, Nomi, as if you're a prophet. We said the undocked money is over 200 million sitting there. Guess what? It's going to be stolen. As a prophet, the money was stolen and the project was not done. I said, give us 10 million. We broke down. The project was going to cost 10 million to put together, to customize it, and then we'll just maintain it. No,
All right.
SAMRO didn't do that. They instead brought this BMET company to come and work, and is not even performing as I'm sitting with you now.
Oh, and thank you so much for coming and making time, because you really have opened our eyes. And I think as young South Africans that are tuned in and watching, guys must remember we've got a problem of low self-esteem as Black people. We don't trust each other. And this is not a CEO member, it's not an INDABA member, it's a wide issue. Now, ORM is reporting, and I want to go back to the reports, but I remember when I was a CAPESA board member, there's something in my mind that's saying that was something that was true. And also, I want just to bring our attention to the State Capture Commission. Maybe you must go read what was happening at SAA. You must be very weary when the CEOs want to fly to other countries to find solutions that already exist in the country and they've been presented to them. It's sometimes it's a thing of we like things. Why are we going overseas? I always used to say, why are people going to Dubai? When you see the ministers all going to Dubai, say, why are people going to Dubai when we've got problems that need solving and we've got the solutions? But we want to go look for solutions somewhere else. I must say that what you've told me here, I found to be very troubling. But thank you very much. Oh, when we did say we were going to finish off this session at 11:45, I'm not even going to touch on these slides. What I'm going to do is I'd like us to wrap up our discussion with you. There was a thing that was said here that they called you for a meeting and that you didn't come to the meeting or you were late. Can you clarify that?
Let me jump in quickly there. And you were very passionate about it. You wanted to kill me, Nomi. Let me shock you. I didn't arrive late in the meeting. We were early with my team. It was 5 members of my team in the meeting. The only person that arrived late was a lawyer. She did go and listen to the podcast. She is talking about the lawyer that arrived late, not me in person. And my lawyer was Gadrish Gadi. My lawyer is Gadrish Gadi of the deputy president of the EFF. He had problems because of, at that time, he was bidding to be appointed to be a president. Remember, they had just parted ways with Floyd Shibambu, and Gati wanted to become a deputy president. There were still rumors, and he was preparing himself. That I can say that now because of eventually he's the president, but it was a secret then between me and him. He was marketing himself, promoting himself to be the deputy president. So he was delayed at those meetings of the EFF. So it's not that he was late, and I understood why, but we were there. We didn't need a lawyer. We said, no, let's start with the meeting. We're going to brief a lawyer. But they insisted to wait. So when Gadi arrived late, believe you me, it took me 15 minutes to brief Gadi, and Gadi was on point. So it was just a delaying tactic that is using. We were never late. We were there, and we didn't need Gadi. Gadi was just going to get briefing from us, and he did eventually. So that is also an exaggeration of is not true.
All right, I want to respond to a question here. Is SAMRO part of entities that can be called to Parliament to account, or is it out of parliamentary accountability systems? In the MOI of SAMRO, there is something called prescribed members or prescribed. Just check. I think it's there by chapter 1920 there. But basically, it's in line with the Companies Act that the minister of whichever sector you fall under can actually become into your organization. So there's that thing that's a prescribed member. I'll have to get it on there. But I believe that through that particular chapter, there is a way in which SAMRO can actually be called to account to a larger body other than its membership. But I'm very wary to take this outside of membership. What I want for us as members is to become members that are informed, become members that are disciplined, which is why I liked at the beginning, we like to bring in those parts about what does the MOI say. If we don't like the MOI, we must amend the MOI. But we must stop this thing of howling about things that are already done in the MOI. Owen, thank you so much for coming and for giving us your side of the story. I'm gonna be honest, as a young Black professional who has really struggled with infighting, we've got a lot of challenges as Black people. We are traumatized, and so the way in which we deal with each other in office spaces, the way that we deal with each other in professional spaces, we tend to be unkind. We tend to bring each other down. I've had that experience, so I have a soft spot whereby I don't want to say I smell a rat, but I do smell a rat. I smell a rat. I would like for us to possibly have a session, a follow-up where we bring you up to speed, colleagues, maybe in June after you've been to court, where we can have a better understanding. But let us prepare for the AGM. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the main chapters of the MOI where I see there's a challenge. And those are the chapters we are going to go through first in the MOI. The first chapter we're going to review is chapter 4, so that we are all on the same page of what is SAMRO there to do. And if we agree that that's what SAMRO should be doing, because if you remember correctly, I raised all those questions. Are we sure that we still want SAMRO to do the things that it says it must be doing? And then we can move from there. But we must prepare ourselves. The AGM is usually in December, January. We've got time. Let us make sure we get to the AGM with our amendments. We vote for our amendments. And then as we are going towards there, we monitor this case. Colleagues, we also like this thing of thinking everything is very urgent and it must be done immediately. Life is long. This organization must be here for our children and our children's children and our children's children. Waiting from now to December and planning adequately and taking the steps and doing what we're supposed to do and letting the legal processes unfold means that when we get to AGM, we are people that are prepared, we are knowledgeable, and we know what we're going there for. There's no urgency in terms of doing things quickly. There's urgency in getting things done. Thank you so much for tuning into Moya, and thank you so much for allowing me to at the Artist Indaba. Thank you so much for coming to the Artist Indaba online. This is an incredible session. Thank you so much for joining. There's over 500 of you that made it. This is incredible. Thank you for all the engagement and all the questions. And we will be back as we are every last Tuesday of every last Friday of the month. We are here 10 a.m. For the Artists and Davas with other speakers, but this one in particular, we wanted to host a special Q&A. And thank you for coming through and sharing this moment. My name is Nomsa Mazwai. I go by the artist name Nomi Superstar, and I am just a SAMRO member, and I'm a member that's organizing members to be enlightened. Hallelujah.